everyone who works here is an owner and has to be. If you're an employee, you are an owner of the company. That's just the way that this structure works. And so that has an impact on the culture.
Welcome to Leadership In, where we go beyond job titles to explore what leadership really looks like on the ground and from the people shaping the future of advertising, media, and technology. I'm Greg McDonald.
And I'm Jeff Wallenitz. We're talking to senior leaders about the moments that tested them, the decisions that defined them, and what it really means to lead in an industry that never stops changing. Today, we're talking to Scott Ensign, Chief Strategy Officer at Butler, employee-owned, female-led advertising agency offering integrated media, analytics, creative services, and proprietary technology with deep expertise in highly regulated industries. Scott brings a unique perspective on leadership, not only as an executive driving that growth and transformation, but also as someone deeply invested in building culture and purpose inside his employee-owned agency. We'll explore how he thinks about leadership in times of change, what he's learned along the way, and how he sees the future of our industry. Let's get into it. Scott, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Happy to have you here. So here's how we usually open up with this question, which is, tell us what you do. How would you introduce yourself to someone at a dinner party?
Yeah, I'm always reminded of, I think it was the first Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, where he's undercover and to make people's eyes glaze over, he gives some like traffic civil engineer job and everyone just zero follow-up questions. I feel sometimes like my job is like that at a dinner party. But the real short answer, Chief Strategy Officer, is kind of vague. I think it means different things in different places. But for us, it's really about the offering. And so what do we offer to clients? That is what I'm responsible for. My job crosses over into business strategy and corporate strategy and things like that. But the main part of my job is like, what is our client offering and how are we making sure that we are staying ahead of everything that's, as you said, changing so fast in the industry.
When you think about that client offering, typically, what are the 2 or 3 things that you focus on when you think through what that means?
Yeah, as you said in the intro there, we are really primarily a paid media agency. That's been the heritage of Butler since the late 90s. And so I'm a digital media guy by trade. That's what I've been doing for the last nearly 20 years. So the main part of our offering that I really focus on, spend my time focusing on, is media, which of course, to say digital media is a little redundant in 2025, but focusing on the media practice here at the agency. And then of course, as anyone is these days, we're investing a lot in our analytics and marketing science capability and really the technology that's fueling the business. Those are the 3 main areas that I'm focused on in terms of our offering.
And how did you get in there? Like, who opened the door? How did you get your start in the media world, and what led you to the role you're in today?
It's a great question. A series of kind of, I think, fortunate events and happy accidents mostly. Like everyone else growing up, I felt a lot of pressure to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I initially wanted to be, and was for a brief period of time, a journalist. So might as well just go ahead and fully date myself here, a newspaper journalist, writing newspaper articles, attending town board, school board meetings, all of that, just because I felt like I had to say something. I knew I liked writing. I knew I liked media. But in terms of what I do now and what I do today, that was, like I said, about 20 years ago, I got my first job as a professional in the digital media world. And I was at the time working in radio and just decided this is not going to be a thing that is going to sustain me for, my entire career. I was a relatively young person at that point. And really just on a whim, someone in my network was like, hey, you should apply for this job. It's so funny. It was that little level of encouragement. I would probably have not applied for the role. Really, I wasn't completely qualified for it. I was young. I didn't have a lot of experience just in general, and certainly not in digital media. And so I took that person's advice. We were just at lunch and he's like, you should think about applying for this role, because I was ostensibly there for some career advice, and just took a shot, applied for it, had a good interview. There was a guy at the time who was running the local office of that agency. It wasn't Butler, it was a different agency. And he gave me a shot despite the fact that I really had no experience in digital media. And so that's where it all got started for me.
And what did he see in you that got him to open that door for you?
Yeah, I think it was the passion for the space. So even though I didn't have that experience, I was the kind of young person / kid who was just so interested in digital media and how stuff worked. And so I had done work on the digital side. Like I said, I worked in radio and newspaper. So building out websites and digital assets, just was really interested from a very young age in how things worked, how computers worked, was taking apart the family computer and putting it back together at a young age, much to my parents' chagrin. So that stuff just really interested me. And I think that really came through in the interview, that curiosity and passion for where technology is going and where digital media is going is, I think, what got his attention. Although it would be interesting. He probably doesn't remember the interview if I asked him now, but it'd be interesting to get his perspective.
It's really funny. So there's two things. One is I find that a lot of people who got into digital media, and particularly kind of early on in the evolution of digital media, have a similar story. I applied for this thing on a whim, or somebody called me and told me I should do it, and kind of just walked in the door and developed their career from there. The second piece is intellectual curiosity, which I think is really interesting. I think that's one of the things when people ask me, what's your advice? I always say, just be as intellectually curious as you possibly can, which kind of leads me to the next question, which is when you think about advice that you got over the course of your career, particularly early in your career, can you think of something that was either wildly wrong or shockingly right? Like, what's one thing that you've taken with you, either positively or negatively, across your career?
Yeah, I mean, I remember in those early days of digital media, there were a lot of people, even in the agency I worked in at the time, who were doing, I guess, whatever we want to call it now, offline traditional media activity, who really did not believe that this was going to be the future. And I don't know if that was just a coping or defense mechanism, call it 2006, where there were still people who thought that it was going to pass and that it wasn't necessarily the future, which is hard to believe, especially now. I don't know if I would call it advice, but I definitely had a leader at the time whose approach was, instead of redoing people's work, and this was novel to me in the moment, he would give really thoughtful, high-level feedback and allowed me, as a young professional who was really learning the space, to go back and fix something myself. And I know that seems kind of basic and easy, but to that point in my career, especially being a newspaper reporter for a while, when I would file a story, I would literally not know what happened to that story until it was printed in the newspaper. And I would see like, well, this reads very differently from how I wrote it. And then trying to reverse engineer that and understand what should I have done differently. This leader very much gave me just bullet point kind of feedback. Like, it needs to be more like this. It needs to be more like this. And I'm not even sure if he was doing that intentionally or more just like, I don't have time to deal with this young moron's work right now. But it definitely gave me the opportunity and opened my eyes to see this is how, as a leader, you should be delegating to other people to get the best out of them, especially if you have someone who wants to improve.
It's such a great approach because, to your point, it relieves some of the burden from the leader. It works really well, particularly when the feedback recipient is open to the feedback and is coachable and is trying to up their game. It's a great approach. Talking a little bit more about Butler Till, can you go a little bit deeper about all the ways in which you lead in this space in terms of your product offering, the markets that you focus on, and then your people? Because you all seem to be very focused on all three of those, and I'd love to go deeper on all of them.
Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about there. I mean, Butler Till really is a unique place. I'm biased, of course. I've been here for almost 7 years now, but it is different than the other agencies that I've worked at and the other places I've been exposed to. The employee ownership is a big piece of that. There's no doubt about it. The way that we're structured allows us to operate in a way that is just not possible with other forms of, call it, corporate governance. I don't know how familiar you are, or certainly anyone who's listening is, with the ESOP structure, but the employee stock ownership plan is it is a highly structured, regulated instrument. And so everyone who works here is an owner and has to be. If you're an employee, you are an owner of the company. You start to earn shares after a certain number of hours. Those vest over a certain period of time. And because we're 100% employee owned through an ESOP. Every owner is an employee. So there's no outside funding. There's no outside money. That's just the way that this structure works. And so that has an impact on the culture just all by itself. First of all, we have to be transparent with our people. They see the value of the company every year. I've worked with other agencies where like that was very opaque. And even in some cases, like you don't even really know how much money you're making, if you're profitable. You don't have an understanding, or at least the opportunity to understand the hydraulics of the business, which naturally here everyone does. We present where we are from revenue, operating profit, margins, all of that every month to employees. And certainly our business is valued by an independent external company every year. That's the way it works. So everyone feels like they have some skin in the game, and that makes a big difference. We see that with just the way that people care about the work, the way that they're engaged, the way that they're all in on the things that we're doing together. That makes it a really cool place.
I really truly would buy into a future where that is the structure for a lot of companies across everything. It really is a throwback to a time before Reaganomics where you had unions and people had actual stock and worth in an organization where the company believed that the employee happiness and satisfaction was a priority over necessarily corporate profit, or at a minimum, they were equal. And so the way that Butler Till has structured itself to me is really fascinating.
I just love the way that that feels. As someone who's in leadership here, as everyone knows, in large corporations in particular, the gulf between the CEO or the executive leadership and the rank and file of a company, compensation-wise, it can be a factor of hundreds or even thousands in some cases. And here, like, we're basically all living the same lifestyle. Like from someone who's just a rank and file junior employee to the CEO, like it is a single digit multiple. No one's emptying out the business to buy a boat every year. And it feels good. It is a good feeling to know that like everyone is on that same footing. You know, as part of the C-suite here, I have the exact same stock and ownership plan. I have to. It's like a legal requirement as everyone else in the company. And so there are people who are on my team who work for me or report to someone who reports to me who have way more ownership than I do because they've been here for 20 years. To me, I think that's awesome. I think that's the way that it should be. Then, like I said, that makes a big difference. And then, of course, we're a certified B Corp and take that very seriously. As you mentioned, we're women founded, women owned, women led, and have been for almost 3 decades now. So the culture here is really, it's unique. And it's not a commercial for Butler Till, but it's a cool place to work. And then in terms of like the markets that we serve, we've built over time deep expertise in health and pharma. And so for a certain segment of those health and pharma clients, like we have services that are just a shortcut to getting work done for that vertical, which, as you mentioned, is highly regulated. There's a lot of nuance. Like somebody who's never worked in pharma, just picking that up is very difficult. But we have people who are just deeply ingrained in that space. And then really it's more of a, I would call it a horizontal expertise. On the other side of our businesses, we service large networks of location-based businesses. So think agent networks, dealer networks, franchise networks, and we've built a lot of process and proprietary technology to serve that segment as well.
And so when you think about putting those two things together, your focus, the way that you're structured, and how you serve your markets has resulted in you guys kind of outstripping the market from a top line and bottom line revenue perspective this year, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very healthy business. And that also obviously feels good to be a part of. And that's both in terms of year over year growth and our levels of profitability, just relative to other agencies and independent agencies in particular. We feel very good about where we are and the runway for that. We don't talk too publicly, but it can say we're going to be between 35 and 40% year over year growth this year with a view to a similar level next year. I feel like we really have hit on our positioning and our strategy in the marketplace in a way that's working really well. So it's an exciting time to be here for sure.
Yeah, congratulations on that. That's huge and certainly not a story that a lot of folks are telling right now. You talked a little bit about the culture and the results and the impact of doing well by doing right. From an employee perspective, Can you touch on the impacts of this structure related to attracting new talent or retaining talent? And then maybe also, I don't know if it bleeds into the kind of work that you actually win as a result of this structure. Can you talk about those things?
Yeah, I think that it's related to all of those dimensions that you just ticked off. So it helps with retention. I mean, people here are literally invested and have ownership that is vesting over a period of time. And if anyone wants to do more research on the ESOP instrument, you'll see it's more or less a retirement plan or like a pension when it boils down to it. There's no annual distribution on shares, but there is appreciation and additional allocation of shares. So people get a statement every year of what their shares are worth and how much is in their ESOP account. And there's a real tangible feeling of investment and ownership in the company as a result. So that definitely helps with retention. We have higher than industry norm retention here. It helps with recruiting too, because people really like the idea that not just the ESOP itself, which is important, but more of a long-term and retirement benefit, but really the downstream impact of it on the culture here, as I mentioned before. And so I think about independent agencies and talk about this a lot, but there's really a continuum. There's obviously the one end of the spectrum is your holdcos, and certainly would never badmouth a holdco, but they're publicly traded. They have Wall Street expectations, quarterly expectations that they have to hit. And then I really see us as the extreme other end of that spectrum of independence. And then there's all kinds of stuff in between, private ownership, private equity, et cetera. But we literally can make our own decisions. And because of the way we're structured, essentially 100% of our earnings are retained earnings. We can invest that money back in the business based on what we think is the right thing to do. And so people who have been in the space and worked somewhere else on that spectrum over time, the right people, in my view, are really receptive to the idea that we're working for a place where we can captain our own destiny and do what we think is right for the business without those other considerations and what are often very short-term considerations. So it has a huge impact on that. And then also clients feel that too. And that helps with client retention, but also with winning clients. When you are with a group of people, you get that feeling that like, this is a group of folks who are engaged and who care first and foremost about the work that they're doing, who care about the business. And we say all the time, like, because of that structure, because of the way that we've been able to align those incentives, our client success is our success. That's it. There's nothing else there. There's no other hidden agenda or incentive. If we can make this stuff work for clients, it's going to work for us, but us is inclusive of all of us, not just a small group of people. And so that message really resonates well with clients. And again, not just necessarily the words or the instrument of it, but the experience of working with our teams is what we hear all the time from clients, from partners, et cetera, is we love your people. We love working with them.
Let's shift and shine a little bit of a light on you, because you talk very passionately, which I love, about Butler Till and its mission and how it executes and what it does. What does it mean for you to lead inside a company that you speak and clearly believe in the mission of so highly? And by the way, that I would argue a lot of other companies in the space probably look to as setting a standard, right? Of not just the way a company should operate, but how you're winning business and how you're bringing value for your employee owners. So what does it mean to you to lead?
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that about the model, because the aspiration of Butler Till is to be the model for the modern agency. Like, that's what we want to do. We really feel like we have hit on a better way of working in many ways. And we do want that to be a model for other agencies. And so to get to your question though, to lead inside of this, I think it's been very freeing for me. My experience has been, as I mentioned, in other media companies and other agencies where I didn't feel as directly invested in the business, and that I could be, to use a little bit of a trite perhaps, or even to some people maybe corny term, but like to show up as your authentic self at work and to be able to be who you are. I think that is something that is so different about Butler Till. Like, people feel very open and free to bring themselves to work. And because they're invested in the business, because I'm invested in the business in the way that I never have been before, I feel like I can lead from that place of authenticity because I do feel like it is literally my business here. And I think that allows for so many things that have a positive impact on the business and the culture. I want to work with people here who are passionate about the space. And so I want my passion for what we're doing and my excitement for what we're doing to come through so that other people who are similarly interested and want to do things that they care about in that way come through. The thing that I say to the teams here frequently is, so we do a pulse engagement survey and an annual engagement survey every year, like most companies do, to see what are our levels of engagement, what do we need to work on. And for us, of course, that's a barometer for how we're doing, but also really more of a blueprint to say, like, where do we need to shift? I always chuckle because of the ownership culture here. People are very open. Like people will tell you how they're feeling in a way that I have not experienced elsewhere. But the thing that I say to people most of all is like, if you are taking this survey and you're finding like, I am not engaged, I do not like what I'm doing, not for Butler Till, not for me, not for my ratings and reviews, but like for yourself, do something about that. There is nothing worse than being in a job that you are not enjoying, that you don't care about, that you're not passionate about. So that's really, as a leader, what I try to instill in the team. Like the number one thing is like, if you're not happy in your work, let's talk about how we can change that. And is that putting you in a different role? And maybe this is not the right place for you too. And that's okay. There's a lot of things that you can do with your life. But the one thing that I'm pretty confident of is you only get one career. You only get one shot at that. And you should never spend your time, your precious time, doing something that is not engaging your passions and your whole self. That's really what I want to come through to the people who I have the privilege of leading here. And that is really my approach is I can't make someone want to do something or care about something. There's parts of every job that you're not going to love, that it's not going to be your favorite, no matter what you're doing. But ultimately, if you're not finding engagement and finding your work to be rewarding, then I don't want anyone to have a career like that and for anyone's work part of their life to feel like that. That is not me for my personal brand, but also for Butler Till's brand, how we want our people to feel.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very unique perspective. I think not just in the industry, but in the world. I think most of corporate America, speaking from personal experience, there's almost some Stockholm syndrome there. You'll never find a better place to work than this. The grass is not greener on the other side. Look at the total rewards package we give you. And at a certain point, it's like, well, where does happiness? Where does satisfaction? Where does contentment with my life and my career fit into that? So I think that's really, really insightful what you said.
There's nothing more depressing to me than the concept of golden handcuffs. We don't do that here, I like to think. And I've been in that position myself where I feel like I'm doing pretty well in this job. Am I going to be able to find something as good as this somewhere else? But to think that for a little bit of money, you would stay in a job that's not right for you. As I get older and have the benefit of being through a few of these cycles, like, man, that is such a bleak place to be.
100%.
What's a leadership decision you've made recently that might surprise people outside your company?
I think one of the things that might surprise people is I love giving stuff up. Since I've started here, and it was a little bit of an adjustment for me at the beginning, is like my team has grown and shrunk and grown again. And all through that time, like I've been able to advance in my career here. But even just very recently, we just hired a chief product officer, which is super exciting. He's awesome. Someone that we've had the privilege and fortune to work with over the years in other contexts. Part of my team and part of the offering team was our technology, software engineering, data, and analytics. While the work that I have always done is adjacent to that. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a data scientist, et cetera. And so it's like half of my team, I just recently said, you can have this. This new person can have this. Of course, I love those people. I will keep working with them. No one's going anywhere. But the main feeling that I get from that is really a reward that like we are doing the right thing for the business. In my experience, a lot of people will measure their value as a leader in terms of headcount. Like there's X hundred number of people on my team. But to me, there's no bigger win than reorganizing the business in a way that is going to let people grow and move forward faster. I want to be careful how I say this. I was thrilled to give up that part of my team, not because I don't want them as part of my team, but because I know that they are going to be set up for success in a much more meaningful way in this new structure. So I think that might be surprising to some people. We do that all the time here. Your team will shrink based on headcount, but it will actually be a growth and career opportunity for you at the same time.
Some people will certainly be surprised by it, but I also really like the way you frame it because it's a testament to your team collectively and the success you've built. You're starting a next leg of growth and you're reorganizing to grow the business even bigger. And that maybe ties back to the culture of ownership. And everybody's then on the same page and they can see the bigger picture and they're aligned to the bigger picture without you necessarily having to bring them there.
Yeah, and that's what I love about doing strategy as a discipline too, is you always have that guiding framework, is what we're doing on strategy. We've done a lot of work here really recently to fine tune, and it's ongoing, it doesn't stop, but to fine tune our strategy so everyone is on the same page and can say, this is what we're trying to do as a business. So when those things come up, it becomes a much clearer decision. It's like, this is really on strategy or it's not. And if our strategic framework doesn't inform whether or not it's on strategy, then we know we have more work to do on our strategic framework because of it. And so when this came up and we're hiring a chief product officer, we knew we had to invest in technology as part of our strategy. I think I even surprised my boss a little bit, Kimberly, who's our CEO, who's amazing. It was obvious the software and technology and product part of my organization would go to this new leader. But I also came back and said, we also need to put our data and analytics there too. So I kind of freely offered up more of what was part of my team because it just makes sense based on business and what we're trying to do.
And it gives you capacity to do more things in other places too.
100%. Actually, again, very excited about it because it does allow me to do more on the strategy side, more on the digital media and activation side, and that core part of our offering that is the biggest thing that I'm charged with at the agency.
There's this constant push and pull, I think, between widening the berth and having to shallow the depth that you hit all these things versus narrowing it and going a little deeper. This, I think, is actually a really interesting question in context because I think we're having a very kumbaya conversation here about the structure and how it's probably right and probably a model for what other companies should think about doing. Have you ever thought of, can you think of a time, I should say, where knowing that you're on the right course from this employee ownership stake and the strategy that you guys employ and all of that may have complicated what you consider to be the right course of action for something?
No, everything's perfect.
I love to hear that. That's exactly the answer I was expecting.
There's two sides of every coin. There's no doubt about it. And as much as I love the impact, and I think on balance, it's a huge benefit, there are downsides to a structure like this. We're very much a consensus culture, and consensus is great, but consensus takes time. Consensus can slow you down. So we have to be cognizant of balancing, there's 100% transparency. Everyone has a voice in this agency. Doesn't mean that everyone has a vote, certainly, on every issue. On the ultimate issue, if we're going to sell the business, everyone would literally have a vote. But when we're talking about the moves that we're going to make and the things that we're going to do, it can engender this idea that I, as an employee owner, which is everyone here, should be able to cast a ballot on which new coffee machine we're going to buy sometimes. So we do have to be very careful that we don't let that slow us down. We mentioned retention before, so there's another side of the retention coin too. We obviously want to be bringing new people into the business all the time and have new perspectives. So when you're a group of people who have been somewhere for a long time, you run the risk of becoming a little bit insular, not having that outside perspective, or having a culture that's a little bit more resistant to bringing people in from the outside. I think we've done a good job of that. I think we have the right perspective on it, but it's definitely another thing that we have to watch out for. We don't want to be slow and insular as a result of having such a good, transparent, collaborative culture, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. I would also say even traditionally structured organizations do fall into the consensus trap sometimes decisions just need to be made by fiat, and that's what happens. But anyway.
We have this, I don't know what you would call it, almost like BT lore, where people think about it very much as like, when we're spending money, we're spending all of our money. This is not public company money. This is not private equity money. This is our money. I went to Cannes for the first time 6 years ago, the first time Butler Till ever sent anyone. And that was a big deal. Butler Till was going to Cannes. That sounds a little fancy.
Yeah, funny.
And we talked about doing stuff as a leadership team. It's just like, how are we going to justify this to the rest of the agency? And we need to be careful that that doesn't hold us back, especially as we get larger and are doing bigger things and are growing so fast. There are going to be things that we need to do that feel different from what Butler Till has traditionally done.
Do you have like a guiding principle? Is there a decision tree around this? Like basically, is the expense worth it at the top and then a set of waterfall decisions?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, that's how it works. I go back to the strategy too. Like, is what we're doing accretive to the strategic objectives that we've set as a leadership team? Some people might argue that Cannes is a boondoggle, but there's a lot of value for us as an agency. It's pretty easy to weed out the things that are like, all right, well, this is a distraction and this is not somewhere where we want to be investing our money, but we know what we're trying to do. Can we make a case that this is going to help get us there? Is basically how we look at it.
There's times where you just have to make a bet. So even if there were some stakeholders 6 years ago that were in the we should do Cannes, if you'd never done it, you're also at a point where you have to go give it a shot and then report back and go, here's the BT approach to doing Cannes, which looks the same in these ways as what everybody else is doing and looks different in those ways. But you absolutely have to be making those bets along the way.
Yeah, and that's actually a great example. I stopped using the word can in any sentence because I just didn't want to hear about it. But then we started sending more people. We got on some panels and we got some exposure from it. And now we send a larger group and everyone really is on board. This is a great thing for the agency, which to me is part of just growing and becoming more of a proper enterprise organization. You know, Butler Till started with literally 2 people in 1997. So it's been quite a journey since then.
What's a piece of advice that you give often?
It's related a little bit to what we talked about before. There's never been a time, and this was true even before something like Gen AI came about, but even more so now. If you're interested in something, if you want to do something, like there should be nothing holding you back. I have a little bit of an allergic reaction to people who are like, well, I'm not trained on this, or I need more training on this. If you have an internet connection, I think you can get trained based on what I see on pretty much anything that you want. The world is open to you in ways that it just wasn't before. Everything that you want to learn or get into is available to you. So find ways to do things that are really kindling that curiosity in you. Because if you do that, it's not going to feel like work. Your career is going to open up in ways that you can't even imagine right now. It's going to take you places that you can't see from your current perspective, but foster that curiosity wherever you can find it and lean into that. I'm not a big follow your dreams person. I would still be trying to play for the Knicks if that was the case, which anyone who's met me would know that was not going to happen. But I am a like follow your curiosity and your passion type of person because it's going to serve you well. And where you can find where those things intersect, stuff that I'm actually interested in, stuff that someone's willing to pay me for, which for me is definitely not my basketball skills, that's where you're going to find the magic. And that's what you just need to lean into. And also, don't worry if you don't know what that is right now. Like I said, I was a newspaper reporter. I thought I wanted to be a journalist, or at least that's the best answer I came up with as a teenager about what I wanted to do with the next 80 years of my life. But you're not going to know right now, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, not only is it okay, but a lot of the things that you might do don't exist yet. Somebody said to me the other day, we are the first generation of people to use AI in the workplace. And it's at the very nascent part of its journey as quickly as it's moving. And the jobs that we've all held in our careers in this group didn't exist at the time that we were in high school and in some cases college.
Even in college, such a great point. I mean, there was no such thing as programmatic. There was no such thing as social. When I started my career, I was printing out my resume on like nice heavy stock paper and sending it in an envelope with my cover. Like the world was very different. And in 20 years, I think we can all agree on one thing. It's going to be very different.
Okay. So with one kind of, I think, interesting closing question, which is that when you sit back and look in your career 50 years from now, let's say, given how young you are, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you hope your legacy is? And I don't mean that from like a job title perspective, you're Chief Strategy Officer of Butler Till right now, but really from the impact you've had on the people that you've worked with and in the industry.
Well, and I think that's another great thing based on the platform that I'm really lucky to have here as a leader. It's not me incorporated. The more that I can fight against that mindset, the happier I think that I will be. But the main thing I want my legacy to be, because I fully intend to spend the balance of my, full-time working life at Butler Till, is that we're the model for the modern agency. And that what we have done is, yes, increase this business. And so that will increase headcount. That will build meaningful opportunity and wealth. And again, I also don't want to get political or anything, but if you think about the challenges that young people face right now in terms of building wealth and income inequality, like this is a great model to be a counter to those trends. And so I want to see that increase. And so if I ever do finally retire someday, like looking back on it, what I would love to be able to say is I have not just feathered my own nest, but created a platform and an opportunity for others to build wealth and to participate in the success of this business. But I hope also Butler Till, like I said, can be a model to other businesses, not just other agencies even, but other businesses to follow a similar approach. Because I'm a capitalist, I'm a free market person, but I don't think that means we all have to be Gordon Gekko about it. I don't want the model to be that the person at the top lives this lifestyle that is so outsized and out of phase from everyone else in the organization. I think we can be successful and be materially successful even without being so self-interested and cynical about what that has to look like. So that's what I want my legacy to be, that I've promoted this way of working and that I've created an environment where other people can build a successful life too, and that no one will say that Butler Till or that I am doing that at the expense of that. That's what I would like the legacy to be.
Such a fantastic answer. I think a fantastic place to wind this one down. Thank you, Scott, so much for doing this with us.
This was amazing. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Leadership In is hosted and produced by Jeff Wallenetz and Greg McDonald. Please follow the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you have questions or know someone who'd make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you at leadershipinpodcast@gmail.com.